Well, good morning, friends. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. We have some news about Jerry Jones. For the first time in forever, Jerry Jones is out and speaking about the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones, you'll remember, it was this week actually is going through the whole lawsuit of being sued because of a paternity case. We'll find out more on that, I'm sure, on Wednesday because that's when the hearing is. And Jerry Jones kind of went underground after that. And after that, it was his longtime assistant, Marilyn Love, passed away. He had a minor medical issue during the combine, and we've had all of free agency without Jerry Jones, and it's put some wonder about what's going on. Is Jerry Jones giving all the blessings to all the moves that the Dallas Cowboys have made? Well, Jerry Jones has actually spoke today about a multitude of things, starting out with the whole settlement of the $2.4 million that went to the two cheerleaders. And he said he has no concern about the culture of his workplace, and called the decision 6 years ago the best interest of all parties. And I'm very proud of our workplace culture. He's extraordinarily proud, to the point of I'm proud of our workplace culture, extraordinarily proud. We have a great system. We have a great HR, human resources. I'm proud to say the sophistication of our HR was ahead of its time. Okay, I don't know because we're only going by what Jerry Jones said. But he also was talking about other things that were very relative to everything that is the Dallas Cowboys. Um, he was also talking about Dak Prescott and looking forward to Dak Prescott being able to have um, more time to go ahead and throw the receivers, and basically saying that with the recovery, okay, here's what we know. This time last year, Dak Prescott was not cleared to be able to start throwing and doing all the things that you wanted to do. Um, Later this month, we start OTAs. In fact, like I pointed out, that Demarcus Lawrence is already working out for next year. He's actually in great shape. Dak had the shoulder surgery a month ago, where he says he's perfectly fine. We'll see him this weekend. We'll see if we can get him to raise his arm. But anyway, that was a joke. Um, but he wasn't able to actually work out with the receivers. We know that Dak Prescott has always been a gym rat. He has a football field in his backyard. The guys come over. We throw the football around. We start just kind of working on things and getting that stuff. And Jerry Jones went on to say, my wish for him is to get as much time throwing to the receivers as he can this offseason. There's an area where we're limited because of repetition and that type of thing, which is true. And you think about how he was on a pitch count there early in training camp and then unable to actually throw because of the shoulder for most of training camp. So you think about the preparation for the season, the fact that the first 7 games of the season he was being mentioned as an MVP candidate was actually amazing. To me, it was still the calf injury. You looked at his numbers pre-calf injury versus post-calf injury. There's no way in the world that you can't look at that and say that Dak Prescott was not the same guy after that New England game. Um, Jerry also talked about the money that's being spent on the top 10 players on your team. You have to take a hard look at the top 10 or 11 highest paid players and their impact on the field. We have to make sure that any one of those players are pulling as much weight as you can. Number two, you got to be judicious how you add a top 10 paid player, which is true. And that's where he's basically saying that, with Amari Cooper, his money and things out there, that they did the best that they could as far as what they could get. Um, for Amari Cooper, but with Amari Cooper, I still think one, because of the timing that they had with Amari Cooper and getting it done before you had the Devontae Adams, before you ended up having the Tariq Hill. It's easy to look and say, oh, the market's been reset, because the market truly has been reset by those guys. The Cowboys have never been good at trading their players, other than, of course, the Herschel Walker one. That was the deal that kind of set the standard. But since then, they haven't been able to get deals done. He also spoke about Amari Cooper and Randy Gregory, which is both of them the best, but the Cowboys clearly think they're better off being able to invest the money in more than just two players. And there may be something to that, because here's the problem. When you look at somebody like, say, Tyron Smith, who's a $17 million cap hit, Tyron Smith, through the first 7 games of the season, worth every single penny of that. Every penny. He was playing lights out. But the problem is, when Tyron Smith is not there, you're still paying. And the money that's left over to pay the next guy, that's the problem. So when you have great players, when they're playing and clicking on all cylinders, then it's great. But if you can't afford to lose those guys because the next guy after them is going from the pinnacle of players to a guy that you question whether or not they should be in the NFL, you're screwed. And too many times that's happened to the Dallas Cowboys. And in some regards, you can think about Randy Gregory, who we got 12 games out of him, which was great. He played great for those games, although he did have the penalties. It's the 5 that you have without him that you have to be concerned with. And in some regard, when you have, Dorrance Armstrong, when you have, if Dante Fowler ends up being really good, if you end up drafting another guy, that you can better weather the storm of losing a player if you have a backup who is at least a credible backup. And that's where you look at it and say, well, maybe with the money from Randy Gregory, and by the way, Bobby Wagner, only looking for $11 million. Bobby Wagner, only looking for $11 million. Hang on for a second, guys. Bobby Wagner, I'm still going to be on the Bobby Wagner train, because you look at that right now, what he's asking for. Yeah, $11 million is what was being reported for the Rams. Maybe he wants a little more from the Cowboys because they didn't just come off a Super Bowl. However, I think that's somebody you have to kick the tires on. So Jerry Jones is alive and well. He is at least still there, still being part of the organization. Maybe he can rein in Stephen Jones. Maybe he can kind of get rid of some of Stephen Jones' risk adverse. We'll have to wait and see. Final note, Jerry had to say this on the compensation for Amari Cooper. We made every effort to do as well as we could do with the trade. Team acquired the Browns' 5th round pick, of course, and upgrading its pick in the 6th round. The only problem with that whole thing was, and as you see, how quickly other deals come through. Seems like the Dallas Cowboys are the only one that devalue their players before they try and trade them. Or they say that we're going to trade or cut. When you say we're going to trade or cut, people just wait you out. Why give you something if you're going to end up having to release them? I'll roll the dice on getting something for nothing and not have to worry about paying the contract. So that's kind of one of the downfalls of the Dallas Cowboys front office, and you have to kind of say, yeah, you may have tried, but you kind of failed. So that's what we have for you guys right now. Hope you tune in tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern, for our live stream. We got a lot of stuff to go on over. It's nice to see Jerry Jones is still kicking and still in one piece. And I'll check you out tonight. Peace.